Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Top Agent Commercial Wednesday. My name is James Wong. I'm really excited for this panel today. As many people know, affordable housing has been a very, very big issue, but also development, construction all around the country. With these experts today, we are going to be talking about ADUs. We've seen the emergence of a new kind of industry and product popping up. But then we heard about modular, different ways of development. But now 3D printing, what is that? We know we all had these small 3D printers making little wax or plastic figures. I think many of us on the side have kind of got into this and started printing, but printing homes and even larger buildings. But with these experts today that have been around multi-generations in construction development to now understanding and learning the new technology and what is working on. So first, I would like to start with James. James, I know you and your family with your dad has been in infrastructure development. You guys were civil engineers. So if you could kind of share a little bit about your background and your involvement in the development space.
Yeah, thank you, James. Yeah, my father started his civil engineering company back in '83, generally specializing in geotechnical engineering and environmental assessments. So that's what kind of springboarded me into starting this development company back in 2010, where we started with affordable housing projects for the government subsidy program. But we started looking at ways to save costs on building these homes. And one of our third or fourth projects was building two single family homes with modular construction. And it just cut so much time out. It was probably about a third of the time that it was traditional stick build, and maybe 30% of the cost. We're seeing in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania market currently today anywhere from $210 to $230 a square foot for construction, which is a significant savings. And then the benefits of having modular construction on the East Coast, where there's weather elements that can prohibit you from doing construction outdoors. A lot of these modulars or ADUs are constructed inside the factory, which is such a benefit with those elements. Some of the drawbacks that you do have are transportation costs that you have to factor in, where if you're not in a close proximity to these manufacturers, you do have to pay for the freight. It could be $20,000-$30,000 for transport, even more if you're farther. So you really have to do your research on where these factories are located. But in general, they're really quick and easy to put up. I would say 4 months from start to finish. The biggest hurdle that you have to face is if you don't have a basement that you're going to put in, you have to put in a footer that supports both boxes, because these structures come in boxes when they're shipped on the truck. So you have to support the middle of the structure, and you have to dig down, you have to excavate down about 3 feet to support these structures, unless you have a basement. And we know in Florida and California and certain states, you're not getting basements. So
yeah, James, you know what? We're going to dig in the weeds, and just to let everyone know, it's good. This is a technical discussion because you're going to see them throw out a lot of technical jargon. We will record this. We are going to send this to everyone. We will have everyone connect if you find this very interesting. As we know, real estate's changed and the way zoning and everything else, but you're going to hear a lot of technical words. So don't worry, because I'm going to go look and use a thesaurus and everything else just to make sure I understand some of these terminology, because I do not know half of these things or even a quarter. That's why they're all on. Next, I'd like to introduce Chuck and Rick from Superstructures, the owner of the company. They are contractors, developers. I'd love to introduce them both, to introduce their company and each one of you. I know, Rick, your company is a second generation contractor from your father. So if you don't mind sharing a little bit of just Superstructure and your backgrounds.
Yes, sir. So I'm Rick Gallagher. I've been in the construction business for 28 years plus before that, when I was born, it seems like. Just been around the commercial industrial, multifamily divisions now. We've had success with pre-engineered metal buildings, modular construction, and also getting our materials overseas too.
My name is Chuck Olver. I'm with Superstructures. I joined Rick a few years ago, and my background is not construction, it's the military, but I deal with a lot of the organizational piece, and I'll goad Rick or poke Rick whenever he uses a technical term so that we can keep everybody caught up. And also just let us know, James, we have a short presentation, so let us know when you'd like us to go ahead and put that up.
Will do. Thank you so much. Next, no stranger to the EXP world is Tom Wynn. Tom, I know you in the new world of remote work, you are taking care of the kids, so we're really happy that you're still on with us too. So Tom, if you don't mind, again, for the audience, sharing a little bit about your background, but maybe the construction development, since I know you're not just one of our top brokers, you also are a developer.
You're muted.
Yeah, you hear me?
We can hear you now. Oh, no. Oh,
Hey,
Tom Wynn. Tom?
hey, yeah, I'm Tom Wynn. I'm a commercial real estate broker, attorney by trade. Been doing it for about 20 plus years. In the last 5 years or so, I got into development. I was selling a lot of land to the home builders, and decided to cherry pick some deals for myself and brought in a local home builder to partner with. And now we're in the home building business, and we do, my partner is also a general contractor, developer, in-house. And we've been doing a lot of business with Vietnam. As you know, Vietnam is kind of the new place to import ever since the trade war started with China, and the high tariffs doing business with China. So we're in two businesses now with Vietnam. That's we have a modular product from a very large manufacturer in Vietnam to bring modular housing to the U.S. market. And also we have a partnership with one of the largest construction companies in Vietnam. They're publicly traded over there, to bring building materials from Vietnam to supply the construction industry here in the U.S.
Tom, thank you. And next, a longtime friend too, Sam Suzuki. Sam is a professor teaching everyone, even though I've just learned it's not new, but it's just getting caught on with 3D printing. Sammy, do you mind sharing your background, your New York background, your development, and how the hell did you get into 3D printing?
Thanks, James. So my name is Sam Suzuki. I've been in this real estate development and finance business for over 40 years. Like James says, I'm a professor at the University of Texas. I teach the master's program of real estate development using 3D printers. We're the first university in the United States to have this program, and it was because of my background. So exactly what this topic is about, affordable housing. In 2018, I went to Cambodia to see if I could solve a problem. The problem is affordable housing in Cambodia. And from my research, I saw that 3D printing made sense. And I've been doing research of 3D printing since 2018. And I was ready to go. I got the government to approve, and then COVID hit and I got kicked out of the country. So instead of wasting my time waiting for the COVID to end, I went back to school to get my PhD in 3D printing. And with that, I was doing a lot of research, and lo and behold, I became one of the few guys in the world that understood 3D printing. And I made friends with a lot of the 3D printing guys. There are roughly about 100 3D printing companies in the world. But the main guys that you're hearing is the Icon, Cobalt, Cybe, CC Corp. These guys are the main players. CC Corp is actually inventor of the 3D printer. He teaches at the USC. He owns about 100 patents in 3D printing. But the main thing is my background is academics and real estate development and finance. So I've been doing development, traditional building for about 32 years. And previous to that, I was a ex-banker at Citibank doing construction loans. So my background is nothing but construction, real estate finance, and now 3D printing. So roughly 6 years of 3D printing experience. But even with 6 years experience, I'm still a baby in this business. So it's going to take some time, but I can explain the myths and I can explain what is going on out there. And some of the stuff that you're hearing is an exaggeration. And that's why we decided to put together an academic course to debunk a lot of the myths so that people who are coming out of our school are going to be able to tell you the truth about 3D printing in more of a scientific way and not what you're hearing out there, which is a lot of fluff.
Thank you, Sammy. You know, and that's the thing, how all of you are traditional developers, like what's going on in our industry, technology, automation, just everything needs to evolve. We just hope, as you all know, permitting, right? The old system of government and how that's coming up needs to catch up with all this tech and innovation that's happening so we can make more affordability. I'll start, Rick, since you and Chuck has been around seeing this. I mean, from a traditional contracting and everything you've done, how have you seen the industry really adopting into ADUs, modular, and 3D, and maybe there's other aspects of development and technology and innovation that most of us that are not in the business, we just never see. Can you kind of share what you've been seeing and the involvement of development from just the traditional, but that I know that's still being done is mostly the traditional work. So can you share a little how the changes and involvement of this industry has gone?
Yeah, sure. The classic from when I started until today, especially with 3D printing technology. But they're gonna the construction actually is slower than our regular computers and stuff like that. So we do have to have a chance to catch codes and local stuff have to be pushed down the road a little faster, but it's not. But with 3D printing and modular construction, it does save a lot of time, a lot of money, theoretically. And it just depends on what's after dollar budget. So that's my take on things. Right?
Thank you. James, also, you and your father has been doing this in infrastructure. Have you been seeing what changes? Because you've actually started adopting right into some of these new technology and innovation.
Yeah, to Rick's point, there is some significant cost savings in some circumstances, and in some circumstances not. But it's all about scalability as well. If you're able to purchase these boxes or these materials in bulk, like with our project we're doing now in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if we can purchase out, we're doing 40 townhomes. If we can purchase out 30 units at one time and get those ready for construction, it's a lot cheaper than doing 5 or 10 at a time. So there is significant cost savings there, but again, there's certain challenges too. So there's pros and cons, and it really just is up to the individual developer or the agents to determine what those challenges are going to be and how you're going to face them.
Thanks. And Tom, I know we've talked many times, because you are traditional, you're modular, supply chain. Can you share, the kind of project, because you actually have a live project that you're doing and vetting and looking at in Southern California. Can you share a little more of how you've seen and what you're seeing the uses? And I would just say since you're a lawyer, also the entitlements, the permit, the inspections, right? You were sharing a lot with me on with this new technology, kind of government needs to upgrade their skills and really get a better understanding of what's going on. Tom, you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, so I do believe modular construction is the future. Right now, it's probably 5% of all construction. That could increase dramatically if certain things happen. As of now, modular construction is not cheaper than regular stick-built construction. What you save is time, and with high interest rates, time, the carrying costs of land and labor and project management and all that stuff is definitely if you calculate the time in it, it's cheaper. Time to market, time to rent, time to sell. But the modular it goes through a different pathway of entitlements than regular stick built, right? So since the modular homes are built in a factory, the cities don't have the manpower to inspect the modules. Like, for instance, if your manufacturer is in Idaho and you're building in Fountain Valley or Los Angeles, the city inspectors are not going to go to Idaho. Or if your manufacturer's in Vietnam, for instance, the modules still have to be inspected because of health and safety. So they're not gonna allow you to basically build 50 modules. The inspection has to go through the same process as stick built. So they're gonna check they're going to check your foundation. I mean, they're going to check your MEPs and mechanical and plumbing, and they're going to do all the same things that they would do with a stick-built construction. But because the city can't do it, the state takes over. So the state, basically, the state of California, will have third-party inspection companies that they contract with, that they approve. And those inspection companies will send someone to the factory to inspect every single module that comes off the assembly line. I mean, it's inefficient, but that's the way it is now. So they stay there for months at a time. Once those get approved, they have a stamp from the state. So when the modules get delivered to the site, the city is only responsible to inspect the foundation, the land development, or the horizontal development of the land, and the connections to the city, electrical and plumbing and water and all, and sewer and all that stuff. So that's what the city is responsible for. But everything in the module, the module comes, completely done, right? Everything in the module is already approved by the state, so the city can't touch that. So that's what happens in a modular construction, which is entirely different from a stick built, because a stick built, the city basically takes care of all approvals from A to Z.
Thank you, Tom. And that's a new thing that I learned, Tom, when you were saying how they had to do the inspections. Obviously, people are now saying about the ADU, you kind of almost bypass, right? Because they streamline how you can build on your own personal property in the back. So that kind of streamlines, I know, the process. But Sammy, since 3D printing is there and locations, can you tell, some examples, and also what is the permitting and inspection process? Because it's there. It's not built in a factory. It's actually being developed on site.
It's the same as traditional construction, except for the plans are converted into a 3D printed design, and the structures are the same way with engineers. They're looking at it, but and they're coming out to inspect. The big difference is that strategically, most of the 3D printer guys are going to small towns where they want the 3D printing technology brought to their towns, and the building departments work with us. So we don't go into the big cities. We don't go, for example, we won't go to New York City because it's a long red tape. So we'll go to small towns that are maybe 5,000 to 25,000 people in that town. The building department is basically 10 people. So we like going into those towns when we're developing. Eventually, we have enough case studies that the bigger towns can get the information about 3D printing. So the example is that a lot of people saw the video about the houses being built in Georgetown, Texas. That started in November 2023. Last week they finished. So that is almost 9 months of construction. And that is very fast for 100 houses to be built. So our 3D printing is about 9 times faster than traditional construction. And here's the big thing, and this is what's going to change affordable housing, is that there was only 4 people on the job site to build out the walls, the exterior, the interior walls, and basically the what we call it, the chase lines for the plumbing were all printed. The next line of technology you're going to start to see is that the plumbing and the electrical will be printed also. And that we're going to see within the 10-year period. So you're going to have everything printed on site and probably with only 2 guys. That's a big difference. Now, why is that significant? The reason why affordable housing is not being done is because of financing. And the reason for financing is that when you get government financing, you must use union or prevailing wages. So your numbers don't work, right? But if you only have 2 people working a project, you now bypass what's called the Davis-Bacon Act of 1931, which is you have to use union or prevailing wages. If you're only using 2 people instead of traditionally 40 people, you just drop down your labor cost from 40 people to 2 people. That's 38 people savings. Now your numbers are starting to work for affordable housing. And that is the reason why I got into this business, how to solve the numbers in order to do affordable housing. So everyone's looking at the construction side. I was looking at more of the labor side.
Sammy, thank you. And actually learning and talking to all of you, we always learned that it was labor, like you said. I learned from Tom, material, right? And then there was capital, right? The cost of capital, how you could structure the deal, in addition to holding costs. And we all know some states, some cities are quicker than others. And Sam, I know you're in Texas, Tom's in California, right? There's different speeds. I know Rick, James, you're in other parts of the country doing deals. So kind of let's go into the ADU part, because those are now plotted and put into the back of people's residence. And with all this technology and innovation and speed, maybe not the financing, what are you seeing with, let's say, your technology or just in development that you see in the project and in the backyard? I mean, are you working on anything? So I'll add it to Rick and Chuck, if you would like to share a little on your experience. Have you had clients just saying, I want you to put an ADU in my backyard?
Yes, sir. We have, typically they want a modular or a shipment from China. You know, those little modules, pods. They're, you know, it just depends on our client and what they expect. First of all, we really need to know what their true values are and what they're trying to do for the homes and community. So that's what we're after, to really know our clients. With modular construction, it's just a lot easier. It's set and forget it kind of thing. There's less waste, less traffic onto their home property. It's just like James says, is logistics on trying to get that modular into the backyard or living quarters, something like that. So that's where we run up against a lot. So yes, well, the stuff that really kills us is getting the crane back there, and also the power lines. Power lines really kill us as well. But
Thank you.
that's about it. It's very simple, straightforward.
If I could
James,
piggyback off of that, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, there were some questions in the chat about what an ADU is. That's a accessory dwelling unit. Thanks for the question, Keith. And those can be used for older adults, extended family, or for rentals. And so if you didn't catch that in the chat, it's there. But I want to make one differentiation between modular, because I hear it sometimes, and I'm sure this group already knows it, but we'll go ahead and put it out there. Modular compared with a pre-manufactured unit. A modular unit or a home or however you're going to use it actually has to meet all the municipal codes for that particular area. It's actually considered a permanent structure. You actually have to set it on a solid foundation. And it can actually, I won't get into financing, that's a Tom area and a Sam area. But I believe that the financing is as a standard, dwelling, a traditional building, a pre-manufactured modular, they'll sometimes throw modular on there, are actually built to HUD standards. So that it's a lower standard, and that is actually presumed to be movable. The parts and pieces that are used in the build out for those structures are of a lesser, not of the highest of quality, because they're designed to be moved, not permanent, and try to make them as affordable as possible. So that's one of the key differentiations between modular and it just went right out of my head too, manufactured. So there is a significant difference between the two. So I'll give it back to you, James.
Thank you, Chuck. James, because I know you're developing single family homes. I mean, and you probably looked into ADU, I know, with you and your dad, because of just getting through the red tape a lot quicker. Well, what's your experience, or what have you seen, and have you built or developed some ADUs on some of the properties?
We haven't personally, there isn't a big demand that we've seen in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania market. However, I do live in California, so I am very familiar with the demand for ADUs, especially during COVID. Those were really, really popular. And even after now, especially for rental income, for in-law units with families consolidating into one property. That's been a very popular trend now. And I mean, you can even buy these tiny homes on Amazon for $17,000 to $19,000. They just come, you unfold them, pop them up. They have all the plumbing, electrical, everything is finished. So that's we just haven't seen that demand or that request in the Pennsylvania market just as yet.
Thank you. Tom, I know you mentioned, because looking at some of the modular examples when you did a presentation at the Builders Convention and Conference, it is a lot of cost putting it up. I mean, since you are in California, also a lawyer doing entitlements, what have you seen in the ADU, especially since you're very close with ground up and modular? But, one of the exciting things I saw that in San Diego, right, they even got more progressive and more creative, right, on the ADUs. So in California, what are you seeing, or maybe even across the country, since you work with such a large manufacturing on ADUs?
Yeah, so ADUs are considered permanent structures. So when you buy stuff from China that folds up, and those will only work if they're like basically like 100 square feet or 200 square feet, and they're more used. They cannot really be used for living unless that that module has a stamp of approval from California, state of California. Yeah, you really if it's under a certain amount of square foot, it can be used as kind of like a pool house or you know, temporary usage, but not as a living area. So if you got to build a sizable ADU, like a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, it's going to have to go through the same entitlement process as building a house. So the module has to be approved by the state. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, ADUs in California are high demand because all the cities, due to the housing crisis, has laxed up, you know, regulations on the ability to add ADUs, and most ADUs are still built by stick built, right? So they're not that expensive to build. You can build an ADU for probably $150,000 to $200,000, and if that gives you more rent or increases the value of your house by more than that, it makes sense, and a lot of people were doing that. The use of modules for ADUs is definitely a big market. You know, we don't really do the ADU market for our modules. We're looking for larger developments, you know, 50 units and up, just because when we manufacture modules, we want to do it on a big run. And when we ship it from overseas, we want to, you know, it's kind of economies of scale. We don't want to ship one module. So that's just a different market, the ADU market. I think it's more for local modular manufacturers.
Have you told me that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And just to piggyback on what the other panelist was saying, yeah, modular construction is just a new type of construction. It's definitely different from pre-manufactured homes, which are considered kind of mobile homes, right? Modular construction is basically normal homes, townhomes, apartments, hotels. It's just a different type of construction where most of the construction is done in the manufacturer, at the manufacturer, and that solves a lot of issues. For instance, weather, right? Like on the East Coast, you can probably only build, you know, certain amounts of months through the year because of snow and rain. So that solves that problem. Labor shortages, or, you know, subs not showing up to work, or, you know, if you're a big builder and you're building in multiple cities, you have to have multiple subs in each city. If you're building in the manufacturer, the same people build the same units every single day, so quality goes up. There's not a lot of less variables. The weather doesn't apply. You can build it year round. And the prevailing wage is also a benefit. For instance, in California, the most modular construction right now in California is for affordable housing. And the reason being is that affordable housing requires a prevailing wage or union labor. So if most of your labor is done in the manufacturer in a different state, you bypass that. So the only labor you're paying for is the on-site construction, on-site horizontal development. The most of the modular labor is done off-site. So then you have kind of a loophole to the whole prevailing wage requirement there. That could be closed. There's some legislation in some states that are trying to close that loophole, even for modular construction. But as of now, the reason why the majority of modular construction is for affordable housing is because of that, and time to market. So
Thank you, Tom. You know, and that's kind of for us in California, certain areas where there may be a lot more regulations to loosen it up. We know that's a big one. And with the now 3D printing, so Sammy, on the 3D printing, we'll start getting into finance, because without it, some of these other issues, right? to pay all cash is hard if you can't finance it or secondary market. But Sammy, you know, on the 3D printing, are you doing as small as ADUs or single family homes, or how big can 3D printing go? And what's the limitation of 3D printing? Or as small as it goes, what have you seen and what have you done?
The ADU has been already printed, and an experimental was built out already. So we went to get the data on the cost, and we were pleasantly surprised. All in, 625 square foot ADU was $43,000, and that was with some mistakes. And so we were very optimistic about it because we went in, the kitchen was built out. It was a small 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, and it took about 30 days to build. And this is a experimental for affordable housing for veterans. That's what it was built out for. And it was, all-in cost was $43,000, which is amazing. But if we were gonna re-engineer this print, I think we can get it down to about $30,000. The most expensive part of the construction was the roof. The roof was made out of steel, and that was trying to make the entire building fireproof. So if we went with a different material for the roof, we could probably get it down to $30,000. So hearing these $100,000 numbers, then there's no way they can compete against 3D printing because we have scientific proof of what the numbers were. And that's why it's taking off, because a lot of people are seeing the cost saving. 3D printing is 20% cheaper than traditional construction. It's 9 times faster. We're fireproof, termite proof, hurricane proof. We are earthquake resistant. There's nothing earthquake proof, but it's earthquake resistant because the secret of 3D printing is not the printer, it's the ink. The ink is the secret of printing, and that's why you're seeing all these concrete companies investing in 3D printing companies, because you can mix the concrete with tire pellets, glass, ceramics, crushed concrete, depending where you are, where you're going. So for example, you're probably using more flexible material in California where it's earthquake zones. And that's why these 3D printed projects are earthquake resistant. So what we're seeing is that a lot of the building departments want to talk to the 3D printing guy. The problem is that there are more modular guys than 3D printing guys, because most of the guys are scientists. They're not developers. I'm one of the few guys have both academic and the development background. But if you try to find more guys like that, you're not going to find thousands of these guys. You're going to probably only find maybe 20. And that's what the problem with the 3D printing is, that we're still in our infancy stage, but we're overwhelmed with inquiries, and there's just not enough people. And we need now the 3D printing workforce in order to answer the questions, because most of the guys are in Texas and California, and that's a problem in itself. It's not all over the United States. So there is guys in Utah, there are guys in Pennsylvania, but they're only 3D printed providers. They only provide the printer. They don't provide the development help. And you're going to see it happen in the next 5 years. And we are not up to the speed of modular or stick construction yet, because lack of knowledge. That's the biggest problem right now.
Thank you, Sammy, on that. So Tom, I know with you on this, let's talk about the financing, to get these deals done. And we could talk about the different parts, but the financing, I think, right, for modular and Sammy can go on to the 3D, but so far, how is the financing done if you are using modular besides the traditional ground up, which we all know with construction loans and, payment plans and other parts after different permitting approvals? How is financing done from what you see, or can it be done on modular?
we have a few specialized lenders that focus on modular because they believe in it, and it's pretty much the same because it's just regular housing. It's just a different construction method. It's pretty much the same loan structure and loan to cost structure as traditional stick build. The only thing is that a lot of the cost is upfront because you have to buy the modules, right? So so what usually happens is they front they make the developer or builder front the initial as for instance, let's say you have a 35% loan to cost, so you need 35% in equity as a developer on your deal, right? They want you to put up the majority of that upfront to buy the initial modules. So the initial modules will come, and once those come and get inspected and approved, then the lender will start funding their portion, which is the 65%. So it's developer front loaded versus but the cost, the loan to value and the interest rates are pretty much the same as regular construction. It's just because the modules are pre-built, you have to buy them ahead of time. So it's not like they'll give you the traditional construction is basically you're on a draw, and once the foundation's done or the horizontal development is done, they'll give you another to start vertical construction. Then they'll give you another draw to do framing and then things like that. But here is once the horizontal is done and they're ready for the modules, basically it's the purchase of the modules. That's what you're dealing with. So
Thank you, Tom. So front loaded and very niche on the developers that would actually finance this. So I see, James, you're nodding your head. So I know you are actually doing these deals. Can you share your practical experience going through this right now?
Yeah, no, Tom is exactly right. Traditionally, banks will not finance your project. It's all for us. It's been front loaded. We've been having to self-finance everything up front. So that's a challenge, especially if you don't have a lot of cash on hand or investors in your project. If with us, we're building 57 units, but it's self-financed, and it's definitely posed some challenges because banks just don't understand they know that it's they think modular, and it gets a negative connotation with it because they think it's pre-manufactured, to Chuck and Rick's point, where there's a difference. It's not a trailer. It's a regular home that goes through inspection, and goes through codes. It can have high-end finishes. It's a regular home. And a lot of banks don't understand that, lenders don't understand that, and they don't finance you.
Thank you, James. Rick and Chuck, I know you work with a lot of these projects and everything. So how are you seeing financing done from your clients? Or do you help finance, or because you're adding the service, do you kind of are the bank or helping them with these different projects, since you do understand it better?
Well, we try to make sure that our clients know the expectations, especially on the financing side, because you are putting down a great chunk of money. But to James's point, it's pretty hard to sometimes finance these jobs if our clients are not cash ready to move forward. As you say all the time, dry powder. Same thing with all these modulars. I mean, you have to be prepared to pay a lump sum upfront to get your modulars or materials from overseas or anywhere. So yeah, it's kind of sometimes it's an easy pill to swallow, but most times it's a hard pill to swallow. But
Rick, thank you.
We don't try to finance or help them finance. It's just We just try to find the right lender to pair them up with the right client.
Like Sam is doing, we're trying to do on the modular side is we focus on, or one of the focuses is on education. So when we have an opportunity to share what modular is and what it isn't, what the myths are and what the facts are, and kind of parsing those out and being able to talk to people and share what the technical language actually means. We basically focus on commercial kind of structures, but they, a lot of these things still apply. So right now it's education to finance to local municipalities. We're a lot further along than the 3D printing, but that's also coming along. But as I'm sure Sam, or I believe Sam will attest to, that you have to educate and show the benefits of, and that it's really a thing, and that it is a solid, not pie in the sky. With modular, people think it's a Connex box or a shipping container, and it's not anymore. It's so much further than that. Same with the 3D printing, as Rick and I found out from Sam a little while ago. So yeah, a big piece of us is educating, anybody and everybody from banks to developers to other contractors to the whole wide range.
Chuck, thank you. Actually, that's a great point on the education training, getting the industry to know some of these new things. We've seen it with so much different technologies, blockchain, right? It still hasn't been adopted the way we thought, and it's very useful. So, and also with the government regulations and rules, I was talking to groups about procurement and going through the process, especially if you're dealing with government. Some of these things on the residential mortgage are archaic, but there are some great technology in blockchains right now, but it just doesn't work. But Sammy, that's why I think you're a professor. You're training and teaching everyone about 3D. So as your background is in capital, can you talk first about the capital and how are you with everyone else trying to be the leaders and educating everyone, the industry, bankers, and maybe change policy for 3D printing and maybe this whole new area of development?
So the government actually about 18 months ago put out a request for white papers. So Texas A&M and Home Innovation. And this white paper was to explain the 3D printing. So in the beginning, the Icon project in Georgetown, they were having difficulties with financing. And then they had to fund out of cash. And then what happened was that the buyers were able to get mortgages traditionally with Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and VA. And that has changed the market for 3D printing for homes. Now homes can be financed because 25 of them have already been sold and at mortgage with traditional mortgage loans. So that hump we're already over. Now, the next hump is multifamily, multi-level 3D printing, and no one has built one yet. So what we're doing is we're writing a white paper and we're going to submit it to HUD, who does FHA financing, which is for multifamily construction. So if that paper is approved and certified, and in the meantime, we are building smaller projects where we can fund out of cash ourselves, there will be financing. So most traditional banks kind of follow the underwriting of Fannie, Freddie, and FHA because it is so tried and tested and it's almost bulletproof. And that's why banks want to say, we're not going to do it first, let the government do it first. And that's what you're going to see in the next 5 years. Unfortunately for us, we're the guys writing the paper. University of Texas is writing this paper because we have so much data. So really, the universities with the most data on developments are going to be the ones who are spearheading the financing. And I think a lot of guys are going to say, you know what? We can't get the financing for a modular, but we can get our financing for 3D printing because it's certified with FHA. We didn't want to go to traditional banks. It was like having a colonoscopy. It was just awful. Okay, so we didn't want to go that direction. So we felt like, hey, let's go where the hardest guys to go to, the government. So if HUD approves 3D printing, you're going to see a dramatic change in the next 5 years. And then, as I told you, the insurance industry is going to probably start dictating that we want to see more 3D printed projects, because it's, like I said, it's hurricane proof, tornado proof, fireproof, termite proof, and it is also now going to be financeable with HUD. So that's our goal right now, is to get in a more financial capital markets way of getting this done. Most of the guys who are in the traditional build are engineers, construction guys. They're not finance guys, and they're not academics. We're taking it in a different approach. We're taking it more on the finance and academic approach so that we can help the industry. But this doesn't help the rest of the world, because they don't have Fannie, Freddie, FHA. You have to finance out of your pocket. So the other thing that we're looking for is cost savings, and how can we drive down that cost per unit, which I just told you the experimental is 43,000. The magic number is 25,000 per unit. That is the magic number. It's not there yet, but that will happen with economies of scale. The economies of scale is driving down the price of concrete. And if we can drive that price of concrete down, then you're going to start seeing $25,000 units. And that's where we're looking at the affordable housing. That if anybody saw the tiny homes were built around 50,000 to 100,000. And these are 300 square foot places. We're looking at 825 square foot places that can come in at $25,000 a unit. It's not right now, but if we can get there, you'll see that there will be a dent in the affordable housing. Predominantly in the United States, it's California, 3.6 million shortage. California is the #1 state with the most need for affordable housing. And it's just the way it is, because of a lot of developers don't want to go to California because of the entitlement process. It takes too long.
Sammy, thank you. And I know there's a lot of questions, but please look in the chat, contact these individuals to get more information. And we will start putting classes and working with many people here, because it is like AI that we hear, the new frontier. You better learn and understand this. But Tom, you got kind of cold out in California. So as we wrap up, can you just give me or tell the audience, what you see? And I think you mentioned it, the future is this modular, but just hearing with 3D and let's say other technologies and California's affordability problem and housing issue, I mean, what can you share, and what do you think as a developer, especially, and a lawyer doing entitlements?
Yeah, well, I mean, entitlements definitely have to be more streamlined. It's just a lot of red tape, especially with CEQA and environmental, EIRs and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that is that might need to be driven by the federal to loosen some of these red tape to develop, especially for modular. I think that having an inspector inspect every single unit that comes off the assembly line is a little much, because you're building the same unit over and over again. It's basically like having the state come in and you're building a widget on a manufacturer. They should more inspect maybe 20 units at a time, because especially if they're the same design or same plans, right? So if you have a different plan, yes, I agree, you should have an inspector on at least the initial batch of those units. But the inspection process needs to be streamlined for modular, for it to make to reduce costs, and to reduce time to market. Another thing we're doing is importing materials, and we're, for instance, Sam mentioned concrete. We can be at much lower cost concrete that's already in the US at much lower costs than what you can probably get it at now. Just because we have we have the largest construction company in Vietnam buying it, so we have a lot of buying power. Yeah, and steel, concrete, anything like that, we're importing and we're selling to other builders. And so we're using it for our own projects, and we're seeing like large savings. So we're starting to sell to other builders and developers.
Thank you, Tom. James, I know you were developing stuff in California, but you started developing in Pittsburgh, Florida. You had different things. So what do you see the future as?
Anything that's more efficient. I mean, that's where we're going. We're going for efficiency and cost savings. I can actually show you, if you'd like, one of the finished products that we had that was a modular home. It's just a minute screen here. Let me see here. Here we go. Now that was just one of the modular homes that we did. It was 3 boxes, but it only took us 4 months. So that's what I see the future being, and 3D printing. If that's going to eliminate even from modular, I think that's where we're headed. Efficiency, cost savings, and affordable housing. I mean, we have to, as Sam mentioned, and Tom, and everybody on this panel knows. We have such a demand for housing. There's such a shortage. So I think the quicker we can get these units built, that's where we're headed.
James, thank you. And I know April said, I couldn't tell. It looks like it's ground up. I know John had some information about financing alternatives. So just wanted to get that out. Max, whatever question you could type in or reach out to our experts here. It's in the chat. So if you want to reach out, we will also, with the back stage pass, to get in contact, and we do look forward to getting more people to educate, train, get everyone in this industry. Love to read the white paper, Sammy, too. Also, so with Superstructure, as you're doing this, I mean, give us your take, because you're actually actively being requested for quotes and putting up modular, but maybe even 3D in the future.
Well, our modular has been going like gangbusters right now. Where we're looking at projects all over the world, and it's just been a godsend, to tell you the truth. I mean, it's all about the how fast you can do it now, how well it's constructed, and that's what we're preaching is how much better modular construction is. And it goes down the list. There's waste. There's not a lot of waste. There's not a lot of damage to the product coming out when it's done. Things like the exterior walls are thicker, meaning you get better R value in the walls. it just helps out the entire structure. I mean, the whole timeline, cost of getting done. It just makes sense. And also going to Tom's point, getting materials out of the country really helps out a lot. If we have 20 homes, we get a deal on all the materials. So that's the way we're looking at things right now. We're like we got a 400 unit modular units in Guam. So we're looking at. So it's just really helping us out, trying to educate.
Thank you.
All we do nowadays is educate.
Well, going back to Sammy, close us out on education and where you see this kind of going. And I know it's a lot with 3D, but kind of give us and wrap up and let us know your thoughts on all of this in the future.
They said it exactly right. It's going to be education. So my first class is November 2nd. I'm going to be cranking out 20 students in a graduate or master's in 3D printing. So by next year, we're going to have 20 guys, and I keep doing maybe 2 or 3 of these classes a year. We're cranking out 60 guys. Not just guys, let's say students and professionals coming out, and we're taking a different approach because we've been watching, I wouldn't say mistakes. I guess it's just trial and error with modulars. And I think what we are watching is that they have to teach the building departments, they have to teach the lenders why this is great, right? So we said, well, we don't want to fall into that same problem. We're gonna start it all the way in the beginning, and then these guys are going to get hired by the banks. They're going to get hired by the construction companies. So we're hoping they get hired in the building department. That's my goal is to get them in the building department, so that when you're seeing this happening, you're seeing that they now understand this construction from the academic side. So we believe what's going on. Since I announced that I'm doing this program in the United States, the University of Nigeria, the University of Sierra Leone, the Australian government contacted me about providing an education system online. And they want this to be out there because they're exactly what everybody said. If you're not educated in this construction technology, they're just not going to accept it. And that is what's going on in modular, and that's what's going on in 3D printing. So we have to educate. We have to do seminars like this and say, hey, look at this as an alternative. Now, I have restrictions. I can only build about up to 4 stories. And I can only build a certain square footage with 3D printing. So there's a limitation. It's not the answer to everything, but it is another alternative to traditional construction, same as modular. So modular and 3D printing, I believe, is going to move forward with these education programs. And I think that's probably what's going to happen is somebody's going to come up with a degree in modular housing. So that's, they're going to probably copy what I did.
Sammy, thank you so much. James, Chuck, Rick, Tom, more to come. Join us always on Top Agent Commercial Wednesdays. Get to be part of the back agent pass so you can learn more, plug in more. But as Sam and everyone said here before, more education, more training, more advocacy. So let's all work and build this together and learn more. So please connect with each other. And everyone, thanks again. And join us next Wednesday again for another Top Agent Commercial Wednesdays. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Jim. Great meeting.
Thanks, Jim. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.